Welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Peter Martin and I'm delighted to say this week's guest is Everton Manager David Moyes. David, brilliant to have you in the studio. Great to get a chance to show some fantastic pictures behind us of your memories of player and manager. The years must seem like only yesterday in that Celtic top.
I didn't realise how old I actually look now. That was a problem. I'm looking at some of them, but great memories and a couple of pictures up there. You know, whether it be playing for Celtic or Dunfermline or managing different clubs, they look quite good actually.
Yeah, I mean, I look back at all the highlights and obviously friends with your dad and Kenny and down through the years watching your football career and your management career progress. The highlight of it all for me, of sharing moments with you, is the moment when you hand your dad the medal in the European final for West Ham. That will live long in the memory because it's just the best feeling ever to see you there with your dad celebrating.
It was. I mean, look, the moment itself for me personally was a huge moment to be a sort of European trophy winner. It's hard enough to win any trophies, never mind a European one. So, and to do it at West Ham at the time was a big thing for the club, but especially for myself. But I think probably for my family as well, who followed me everywhere and supported me greatly from I was a young player until where I am just now. So it wasn't something I had planned because I never knew I was going to get a medal. That was one thing, and I think the main reason was my dad was on the other side of the stadium and didn't know if I was going to quite see him after the game. I didn't know how things were going to happen, how it was going to unfold. So all the players seemed to have their family down. I called my dad down and I just put the medal around his neck, and someone came up and took a picture, and I think it meant a lot to a lot of people. I think a lot of people know who with their dads and their mums, and they're getting older now, as you know what it's like. So it was a big moment for us, and I'm pleased for my dad as well because he stuck by me and watched me all the way.
Yeah, what a game to win it! What a way to win it!
It was brilliant to win late on. Paqueta pass for Bowen and to win late on. You know, it's something sort of special about scoring a late goal. Which I just done last week as well. So it's always good when you get that.
Yeah, it's called They Can't Come Back.
Well, when you're the manager, you always think they can.
It was the funny thing about it is I'm more often than not used to, you get across Europe and you follow the Champions League, Europa League and everything, and I'm always in the press box, so you're spoiled. Yeah. You've got a great view, and because Kenny and I are such good friends, and Kenny's like, yeah, you're in with the West Ham fans, right? Now, that was an eye-opener right away. Yeah. So we're in there, and the atmosphere was fantastic. And, I just you know what's great about it? And you probably won't realise because you're focused on the game, but to see grown men cry who are Hammers fans, who would look to their kids in that stand. And I remember looking at some of them and I thought, they were crying because they thought, We've never seen this. We've heard of 1965 and Bobby Moore and Peters and Hurst. Yeah. This guy has just delivered something that we might never see in our lifetime, and we've shared it with our son or daughter. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, the East End of London on the open top bus was unbelievable. It really was. It was something which I'll always remember because of the amount of people were in the streets, what it done for that part of London. And because there's been a lot of success in London with other clubs, Arsenal, Tottenham at different times, well, Tottenham more recently, Chelsea probably more. But I just think for West Ham supporters, as you rightly said, not had any success for so long and then to get a moment. So it was a big moment for us all, great for us. The open top bus was a joy and something I'll always remember as well.
Yeah, great highlight. And what a job you did for them in 2 stints. I strangely enough, there's a period where Everton, fantastic. I mean, we've watched the Shrewsbury part and all that going through and cutting your teeth. But at Everton, you've given them stability. You've had to build 2 or 3 sides. At West Ham and at Real Sociedad, I used to sit and get frustrated and think, for God's sake, he's the man that can't be loved. He's doing a good job and nobody's giving him the recognition, or they're derailing him with madness. West Ham was one of those situations.
Yeah, it felt a little bit like that, but I've got to say, you know, I had a brilliant time there. I loved it, I really did, and I had a really good relationship with everybody at the club.
Do you think you were unique in that sense?
Possibly, you know, I don't know. I mean, people might tell me no. I think, you know, they had other really good managers, Big Sam, Slaven Bilic, and people like that who maybe had good relationships as well. But I got on really well with the board, and I didn't have a big problem with them at all. I think the year we were in COVID, and the year we finished sixth that year, and it was an amazing for us to come, because the season before we just avoided relegation. We finished sixth, and then the following season we finished seventh, and we'd got to a semi-final of the Europa League that year, and actually it was Oliver Glasner's Eintracht Frankfurt who eventually played Rangers in the final.
Yeah.
So no, we really thought we were in with a big chance that year as well. So the years we were actually at West Ham and in Europe, you know, one year it was a semi-final, one year it was a final, one year it was a quarter-final. So when I look back, I actually think that it was great years for me, but it was also really good for West Ham as well.
Did you like that sense of, you were, at that time I thought they had you in the, now for younger listeners and viewers, they won't know the name Red Adair. It was like, quick, hire Davy Moyes, he'll save us.
Yeah, I never wanted to become a manager that was known for that part of it. And I never thought that was really my title, or it should have been my title. I actually think that I'm better at building teams and taking them forward, like I did in the 11-year period at Everton, my first period. But I had got a little bit of stability at West Ham. You know, we had built quickly, we had some really good players, and, you know, we'd started to build a little bit, and also the money that was coming in from Europe was helping us, you know, rebuild the club. And I actually think that we'd got 4 years. In my second stint, we had about 4 years, and it was just beginning to sort of get a little bit more solid at that time. But like everything moves on, I was probably maybe ready to end it at the time at West Ham anyway, and come back up. I've been living in London for a long time, so it worked out fine for me in the end.
Yeah, I like the point that you made there, which is that David Moyes is a team builder, a guy that, you know, wants to get a bit of time to get stability, to build a team, and then hopefully achieve the success. I don't know if you were at the Largs gathering when Marcello Lippi was there, and he was speaking to all and sundry. Somebody said to him, you know, what do you think your style and your legacy is, you know, with teams that you build? What do you like to build them with? And he says, well, I haven't got a style. He says, it depends on the players I've got. Yeah. If I've got a big number 9, I'm launching it. Yeah, he says, if I've got a Baggio, we're playing to the number 10.
Well, I'm sure I probably was, because at that time I was a one who wanted to be all the things. And when Lippy was speaking, I'm sure I was at Largs at that day as well. But I think there's a big thing at the moment. You know, I've always sort of thought where I started at Celtic was, certainly for me, was all about winning at Celtic. You know, we had to win, whether it be the youth team, whether it be the reserves, whether it be the first team, we had to win. And, you know, if we won 1-0, that was fine. They were asking why we didn't win 2-0 or why we didn't score more goals. And they were expecting more.
Did you like that pressure?
I certainly did as a player, because it brought me up. The players I get brought up with were the reason why I still believe probably where my upbringing came from was my dad in Drumchapel Amateurs and Celtic Boys Club, but Celtic itself had a huge winning philosophy, you know, and from the youth team right through, and I think that's where I picked it up, and I still think it myself. Today I look at a lot of managers, you know, who are really, really good. There's an abundance of so many good young coaches, but I still don't think the style will overtake the winning. You know, I think winning is the most important thing, and for me it always will be.
Yeah, that foundation that you picked up at Celtic, were there players there that you played alongside? Because I remember you coming into the side, and of course, listen, if you're a winger and everybody goes, I wonder if he's the next Jimmy Johnson, or saying, I wonder if you're the next Billy McNeil. But was there players on that side that you not only loved because they were funny, but their talent, and you looked and you thought, oh, this is a joy?
They were all a joy at that time. But I have to say, Danny McGrain was probably the one for me, because Danny half looked after me at times. You know, I remember him saying to me, hey, you'll need to do better. You know, you'll need to buck up, or you'll need to get... So Tommy Burns was always on my case, which was great, because, you know, it showed he cared about you and he wanted you to do well. And then there was all from Roy to Packy to Charlie and all the other boys at that time. They were all so many good players. So just the level, and when you think of this Scotland international players now, some of them are fantastic. But if you think of those boys and the levels what they were at the time, they were really, really good players.
And the good thing is, you not that I'm surprised by it, you still keep in touch with a few of the boys.
I do. I love it because I'm in touch with a lot of them, and I'm in a group with them, and I really enjoy speaking to them. It's something which I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget my roots, and I didn't spend too long at Celtic, but the time I did spend there, I had a great time and met some really good people and obviously great players as well.
Yeah. Did you enjoy, I mean, look at the success you've had as a manager. Did you enjoy the playing more than ever?
Yeah, I think that I did. What I wanted to do was play. And I think in that period when I left Celtic, it wasn't about, you didn't have 15 subs, it was 12 or 13 players, and if you didn't play, you were saying, no, I need to play. So I went and played. I had a really good career. I probably played nearly 600 games in my career at different levels. And it learnt me lots of things. I saw lots of different managers, lots of different styles, different levels as well. But maybe I could have hung around and maybe not played as much and done that. But at that time, I wanted to play and felt as if I should be.
Yeah, and as you go through that period, and then as you say, there's the big job in Everton. First time around, how have you changed from David Moyes' first time around at Everton to where you are now?
Well, I think I'm probably more mature and more sort of relaxed in a lot of ways because I've seen it and done a lot of games and been around. But I have to say, when I got the Everton job at first, it was nerve-wracking because I had done a job at Preston, done quite well at Preston, but not really stepped up. And I always remember, sort of being a leader or being the head of a team, and I walked in and I'm looking at David Ginola, Tommy Gravison, Duncan Ferguson, there was so many top players, and you're saying, my goodness, they're expecting me to manage them and coach them with their experience. So I think for any young coach who's getting put in that position, it's quite a nerve-wracking thing. But I think even more so at that time, I'm saying, they'll never know who I am, they don't know what I've done, So I think you have to sort of earn your stripes as a coach or and a manager, and you have to show them, obviously, that you know how to do your work, that you can prepare, that you can organise, that you can coach. And in the main, over the 11 years at Everton, we done well. We had quite regular entries into Europe. My last 2 seasons at Everton, we finished above Liverpool in the league, which was a big thing. We had a Champions League qualification place one year. So I actually think those years were really good.
My abiding memory of your first stint at Everton, and it's walking down to Belfield, and you saying to me, listen, we're going to training, and there's a boy here that's training that I'm actually under pressure to throw him into the team. He's unbelievable. He said, you'll not believe when he trains that he looks as if he's a veteran and he's going to boss this game. And I remember sitting to myself, he can't be that good, Yeah. And there's a wee bit of murmuring before I'd come down. Yeah. And I remember standing there and you were taking the training, and I just watched Rooney and I thought, he's outrageous.
Yeah, and he was so good. He was so good, and it's actually when you look back and you think, at the time, as a young boy. But I have to say, when I got the job, and I'm only saying this because when I got the job, I took it from Walter. Walter was my pal. He was a mentor to me, really, Walter, and I would phone Walter and Sir Alex at different times as well, and try. And so when Walter had lost his job and I had been offered the Everton job, I went to see him. His house was in Lim, just outside Manchester. I went to see him, and he said, the one good thing you've got, he says, a really good young player coming up. But I was still young, but I'm saying, I've heard this before. Lots of good young players. It'll be another 3 years or something. The boy was amazing. He was a man at the time already, just about, and he had a lot to learn. And he went on to do brilliant things. But I was thinking about it there as you were saying it to me. I think that first pre-season we came up to Scotland, where we did always used to bring the team up to Scotland at the time. I'm sure we played Queen's Park at Hampden, and he was only 16, and he scored a hat-trick against Queen's Park. It was only a pre-season friendly, but he was only a boy, and he went up to Hampden and scored a hat-trick. I'm sure we beat Queen's Park at Hampden in one of the first friendlies, and Wayne scored a hat-trick.
I love it. I love him being. We've got a great word for it here, gallus.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a podcast with him the other week there, and he said, when I get into the Everton team at 16, I knew I was the best player in the team, and I thought,
it was amazing. Yeah. I actually had, when I was in the Euros last year, went to the Euros and was doing it for television and different things, and it was about the first time I had a couple of nights out with Wayne. With a couple of nights out. I lasted about an hour, yeah. So, I couldn't even on this podcast. Is this? Yeah. I couldn't repeat the stories he told me, what he was up to then. But that was part of the boy. He was literally the last street footballer, and he was. And if you think of the what we all sort of were brought up in, the street footballers, most of us been brought up playing in the streets early doors and in the parks and whatnot. I think Wayne was certainly the last of that breed, as far as I know.
How do you, and I'm going to say this because you mentioned Walter, and it's a story I've said a couple of times, but Billy Connolly met Walter Smith in Buchanan Street, and he said to Walter, how do you handle Gascoigne? And he says, he's unbelievable. He says, probably like Rooney. Yeah. He does things that mere mortals can't do. And Billy Connolly says to him, remember, he says, you have to accommodate genius because genius won't accommodate you. And Walter said to me, what a line. And that must have been you with Rooney.
Oh, that was Rooney. And I've had others as well, I have to say, but Wayne especially, I think. And I remember in the early days with Wayne, everybody wanted Wayne, and he was getting asked to do Coca-Cola adverts, he was getting asked to do, you name it, everybody wanted him. And I was raging because I was saying, at the time I could only think of how Sir Alex had dealt with Ryan Giggs, and strange enough how Celtic had dealt with Charlie Nicholas, because they were the sort of the gallus boys, we want to put, they were the top boys and everybody wanted a bit of them. And I had to look at how they had dealt with it, and they were quite strong with him. Certainly Sir Alex acted as if he was really strong with Ryan Giggs in the early days. And I could see how Celtic had treated Charlie and how Charlie had to be dealt with. And I tried to sort of do that a little bit. That was the only sort of history I could think of how could I look to see how MD dealt with it. So, but Wayne was something else, and he turned into an amazing player and an incredible footballer, whether it be scoring goals or how he played.
What was the best team you had for the Everton at that time, that 11 years? Was there one that stuck in your mind?
Strange enough, probably the later teams.
Yeah.
Partly when I had got people like Mikel Arteta, Lee Osman, Tim Cahill, Julian Lescott, Leighton Baines. I mean, as a manager, probably one of the biggest things you get as a manager is the pride you take in turning them into international players. We were taking the boys from the lower leagues, Phil Jagielka, John Stones. We were signing all the boys from sort of the lower leagues, and eventually they were turning out to be England internationals. And that's probably one of the pleasures of getting a manager. And even if you're an amateur manager and you're a manager at a boys' team, getting a boy who could become a professional footballer, what a thrill it is for an amateur manager or a coach of someone lower. So a bit like when you're a manager of Premier League teams, the chance to get the boys to become international players and be recognised is a big thing. So I think my team's right at the end when we were finishing above Liverpool. And if you look at how the gulf between the teams are probably, certainly in recent years and still are today, that for me was probably the best time, because we were competitive with Liverpool, we were competing with them, and obviously they weren't the only team, but it's a big thing in the city. Is if you come from Glasgow, you understand what the city's like, and if you work in Liverpool, you have to understand what the city's like there as well.
Yeah. When you have that stability, when you have the chance to build a team, when people see what David Moyes is all about, when you get a job like Manchester United, and we only have to look in the last, 3 or 4 days, Sir Jim Radcliffe comes out and said, Ruben's getting 3 years. Did you just go into a darkened room and scalp your head off a wall and think, David needed 3 years? Yeah.
Well, actually, I think I had to qualify for the Champions League. That was probably which was the big thing, really. We couldn't qualify for the Champions League at the time, and that was Manchester United's levels. And by the way, I had a brilliant time there. I have no regrets. I met some brilliant people. It showed me another side as well to players and the levels they were at in their winning and what was expected of them. So it was a short period, but I really enjoyed it. And I look back and think it was part of the journey what you have to be on. And there's very few managers and coaches go one way. You know, there's always ups and downs. I don't think if you're going to come into this job. And I've now had probably as much longevity as many. You know, I know Sir Alex and Arsene Wenger.
Yeah.
I've all been in it and much more games than me. But I think to stay in the game, you have to be doing something right some of the time. And I've kept trying to do it since Man United. I've gone again and maybe had a little bit more to prove.
Did you feel tarnished or disheartened by it? Because when you look at it now, as time goes on, you see countless managers after David Moyes who couldn't do anything for Manchester United.
Yeah. The only thing I would say, I was more disappointed with myself that I didn't make it work. I get the chance of that big job and I'm saying, and I probably needed a bit more time. And this might sound even a bit more experience than I had then. You know, I think I'm a bit wiser and looking at things a bit more different. And also, you know, like, let's be fair, following Sir Alex was never going to be easy for you name it, whatever manager was going to do the job.
Subsequent managers.
And it's not that it's looked as if it's not been easy for anybody following David Moyes. You know, in some ways, so it was easy, not easy. It's easy saying hard after Sir Alex, but it's not been easy for any manager. But I still feel that, you know, if there was if there was any blame, it was me. I had to do better, and that'll always be. It won't be a regret. It was something I loved, and actually, inside Old Trafford was magnificent. The support inside Old Trafford was really, really good. If anything, I think they're one of the clubs who hugely support their managers, and from that point of view, you know, it's a good club in a world where at the moment, you know, there's a lot of criticism of managers everywhere.
Yeah, well, I was just about to ask you about that. Obviously, you had your own call it difficulties from your point of view. You knew what you were hired for at West Ham, but we're now in a society where, my God, they're calling for managers, you know, for the bullet after 7 or 8 games now. I mean, it's ridiculous. The Premier League's got pressure, but surely not that pressure. Does that leave you disheartened?
Well, I'm on the LMA committee, and part of it is I feel as if part of my job is to try and be one of the older ones. Well, I'm the oldest Premier League manager. That's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I'm looking at these pictures in the background to be that. But I think that it's quite disappointing that managers can be treated in the way they are, and sort of, you know, if you think you're finished, how they sort of the way they get rid of them. Obviously, you're part of the media world.
Yes.
But, you know, it seems to be okay to phone in a radio station and say, no, you know, why you think someone should lose their job or why you should be promoting someone to lose their job. I'm actually dead against it. You know, I think that managers should be treated the way managers in other industries would do. And we're in a big world of mental health, whether you're a believer of that or not. So I don't think it's particularly right that it should be exposed as much as it is. Ultimately, it's the business we're in. If you want to be a football manager, a football coach, that is the part of it you have to accept, and we have to. I still don't think it makes it right.
Well, you mentioned that part. Is there a flip side to it? I'm not defending our industry. Is there a flip side to it where you have a group of supporters? And I give you an example. Only in the last couple of weeks, Russell Martin. The fans didn't like him to start with. You know, I'm sure you've been in that point where people will go, "Oh, we've got David Moyes. He's not exactly what we were hoping for." Mm-hmm. And you end up starting your job from a negative point, and Russell Martin has to do that. And then, you know, you get to 5 wins in 17 games, and the fans are on his case. Yep. Never mind the media. The fans are not buying into it. How difficult is that to deal with? Where is the fault line? Is it the board not being resolute enough? Is it the fans' expectations? Is it a mixture of everything? Is it the media have to take responsibility too?
I think as a coach you have to win the games, and that's part of it. You know, you might not be able to get everything you want over immediately. And even going back to meet Manchester United, you know, I had to win more games if I was going to stay in the job. So you have to do that. To be a football manager, you have to win. You know, we all want to play. I want my supporters to be loving the football. I want them to be thinking it's exciting. And even back to my roots at Celtic, when I said the job was to win, but there was always an element of having to play with a bit of panache, style, if we could do it. But ultimately, somehow I had to win because that was the baseline. And I think that is the baseline for most football managers. You have to win. Your style will be really important, but for me, it wouldn't win over the winning.
Do you think it's a special type of person? You said you knew Walter. Do you think it's a special type of person that has to understand the quality of what it takes to be a Celtic manager, a Rangers manager?
Oh, by the way, I admire everybody who goes to manage Celtic or Rangers, because I come from this city and I know what it means to all the people, all the supporters, and you know, it's a big job to manage either of those two sides because of the, you know, it's not now. It's great that we're seeing, you know, Hearts competing at the moment. It's great that, you know, other sides have done well in Scottish Cups, etc., etc. But ultimately, the two clubs that represent Scotland mainly is both Celtic and Rangers.
Can you understand the attraction of Steven Gerrard thinking, it's a big job, I'd like to go back, I won a title before?
There'll be 100 managers who want the Rangers job. So the Rangers won't be short of managers, that's for sure. It's such a big club, such a big support. It'll be attractive to so many managers.
Yeah, you go back to Everton. Was there a dilemma? Were you worried? They say never go back.
Yeah, no, there was a dilemma because I wasn't sure. Everton had a chance of getting relegated this time last year. There was a big chance, and obviously on the horizon was a new stadium. It was leaving Goodison, and I'm saying, my goodness, if I go back now and it doesn't work and I get relegated, then I won't be able to do the job, that's for sure. And I wouldn't say I had a huge legacy in 11 years, but I think it was a good 11 years I had prior to that. And 11 years at any one club's some doing, it really is. You know, for any managers now to get longevity at clubs and stay is a big thing. So going back, I felt it was a risk, I really did, and actually I was really panicking the first few weeks I went in. I thought, my goodness, if I can't get this right, we're in trouble. But I have to say, we had some amazing results last year, you know, winning at Brighton, winning at Crystal Palace, we won at Newcastle.
What was the key to that? What did you do when you know that your reputation, but a club that you loved, is in danger of going down a division? They've never been out of that top flight.
Yeah.
What did you do significantly? What did you drag out of your inner being to say, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to say first of all to get that out of them?
Well, first of all, I have to say that Sean Dyche put a lot of really good things into Everton. You know, when I'd left, Sean had lost his job, and I came in, and I know Sean well. He had a lot of good values, great values at the club, you know, sort of typical Everton values. The one thing I think I had a little bit of a rapport with the support. I knew a lot about them. I knew a little bit what they wanted and what they needed. I didn't know if the players could produce that, but I'll tell you what, I was really surprised how well the players done. But they had good players, Everton. You know, Jordan Pickford's England's #1 goalkeeper. They had two very good centre halves who were really steady. Probably the strongest part of Everton at the time was the defensive set up, and because of that, and behind it, they had an amazing skipper in Seamus Coleman who had signed from Cork for about six. I think it was Cork, or it wasn't Cork actually, but I signed him for about 60 grand at the time, and he's an amazing captain, and a bit, you know, people who are listening to that and know a bit old school, you know, dug the players out and made sure they knew exactly, told them exactly what they were, you know, what was expected of them and their responsibilities. Amazing leadership it was from him, and he probably saw Everton through a lot of the bad spells there where it was required. So that leadership and those good people and good captains at the club are incredibly vital.
And with that in mind, you said you're a member of the LMA, so that's great for the LMA members, but there are Scottish managers, young Scottish managers, people who are in the game right now, who are looking, who maybe never get the chance to meet David Moyes, and maybe never get the chance to go to a Lars or something. I know you do a lot with the SFA and giving something back, but what advice would you give to a manager who's going into a club and wants to make that impression, maybe in the difficult situations that you've faced? Is there something that sticks and resonates with you?
Sometimes it's nothing a young manager can do, but you hope that you've got people who give you a little bit of time and people who are good men. I was really fortunate. The people who were in charge at Preston North End were really good to me and helpful. Weren't in a hurry to sack people. And Preston North End at the time, I remember when I was getting the job at Preston, I was only young, And I have to say I'd been offered a lot of other jobs at the time before, coaching jobs and different things, and maybe people had seen something in me that was going to be a chance of getting into management. But the people at Preston gave me an opportunity to do it when they wanted Joe Royle or Ian Rush as manager, if you go back the years.
Yeah.
And it meant then that I had, they gave me that, and I didn't win, I think, for the first 6 games at Preston North End, and I think I won a Freight Rover DAF Cup game or something like that, you know, and I could nearly exploded with the excitement of getting my first win. But I did know a little bit about the team, I knew a bit about the players, and it let me grow. And I was really fortunate when I went to Everton for the first time. I had Sir Philip Carter and Bill Kenwright, who were incredibly supportive. And to be fair, probably Everton in the first period, I didn't have huge bad periods, but we had one or two.
Yeah.
There was one season we were just off the bottom of the league, and I thought, "Whoa, could I be in trouble here?" And no way, they were solid, never budged, stuck with it.
What do? Do you stick to your principles on the way you want the team to play football, or do you stick to the structure that you think makes it difficult to beat, or do you stick to something and saying, but go back to the Lippy thing, this is what I've got, this is what they're, it's Jock Stein, don't ask a player to do something he's not capable of doing.
Well, I think that would be where everybody would come from. Mine was just to try and continue to do what I thought I believe were the right things, the right values, train the players well, hard at times, to try and get more out of them. I think as a coach or a head coach or a manager, your job's to try and get the best out of every player you work with. There's been lots I haven't been able to get to the bottom of, but there's lots I have, and a lot of those ones went on to become international players. Yeah. I think it's really important that you find what suits yourself. There's no really one way to be a great leader. I think you have to find what suits you as a coach or a manager. But if it's not working, then you have to find a way how you're going to get results and what you're going to do. And if you're tippy-tappy, maybe you have to go long ball now and again. If you're long ball, maybe you have to find a way of playing better football and doing different things. But I definitely think if you get the big clubs, the real big clubs, you have to have a style and a way of playing and showing how you can beat the opposition. But while you're a young manager, what you're talking about, and on the way up, you have to first of all, get up the ladder and find a way of getting those results.
Are you a shouter? Are you a hairdryer manager now? Seamus Coleman certainly had all the boys warned.
Seamus Coleman had them trembling. Probably the way maybe he thought I had him trembling in the early days as a player. But if you think of the Scottish coaches, we're so short of managers and coaches working in England now. When it used to be loads of them in the Premier League or in the English leagues, for example, we're so few of them, and we had a brilliant reputation with the famous managers which Scotland produced over many years. We've got less of them now. I think I came on the back of that hairdryer group, if you want to call it that, who still were and could be, tough Scottish upbringing, everybody, having to abide by the rules and doing things right. And there's absolutely nothing up with that at all, because we're actually going into a period where it's less and less. You can hardly shout at MD nowadays, or HR would be on your case. So
are you less of a shouter?
Much more. But that probably comes with experience and trying to improve. I mean, part of the job, if you're in the job, is to learn on the way. And by the way, I still wish I could be as the type of manager I was probably when I first took over Preston. No baggage, no nothing, not really caring what media thought or what people were talking about. I think now, where you're at, you do have to be a bit more careful in how you come across and how you speak. And obviously, I'm working with a lot better levels of players as well, who you expect them to demand of themselves as much as the manager's demanding of them.
Is there still a man management role for you with individuals though? Because how would you deal with it?
My goodness, even more so than ever. We've got a different type of individual nowadays who might have a team around them. Sometimes that team around them think they know better than the manager would do, and a lot of the players sadly are caught up in believing it, which is really the bit for me, which I'm saying. There's a lot of people, they're well looked after by agents, but they might have other people who, a lot of them have got their own fitness coaches, got their own people who I'm saying, well, it's good that the players are really trying to do better. Lots of them get their own chefs and whatnot, which are great for their career. but they're still listening to a lot of people who don't know enough about it and taking advice from the wrong people.
Is an additional problem the fact that a lot of them that you're dealing with right now are multi-millionaires?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. It's not a subject we talk about, I suppose, but look, I think if you're really fortunate to be in this industry and you're good, then you become very wealthy as well. But it's a short career and you have to do the best you can in that short career, and actually as it is, players are playing much longer because they've got lots of better things, they're much fitter, they're looking after themselves, whether it be what they're eating, how much they're drinking, etc., etc. They're in fabulous condition, the players nowadays, they really are. And athletically, the Premier League is so intense, so fast, so quick, the strength and the size of the players. So there's a lot of the best athletically type of players also part of the Premier League as well.
And you can still tell a player what you think. It reminds me of John Gagan, who goes into the manager and says, "Why you keep picking me for the second team?" He says, "Because you're too good for the third team." Can you be that honest with them? No,
like you can go through all the things and trying to be really honest with a player probably means that they end up disliking you. Because in the end, I've always tried to be honest with the players as if I can be, because if not, then I don't think they respect you in some way. So, but once you tell them the honest truth, then they don't like you anyway. Because if you say, "Hey, by the way, you're not in the team because Joe Bloggs is playing better than you, and that's the main reason why you're not in the team," sometimes they don't like that either. So there is a world which wants to only be told good things, and unfortunately, the industry we're in, we've now got squads of 23, 24 players. We can only play 11 every week. And I've seen it with other managers, and I know it myself. The worst part is not being able to pick all the players and tell people they're not playing, or you can't strip them, you can't even get them on the bench, you can't get them any minutes. So those parts of being a manager is really, really horrible. And actually I think it gets worse as you get older, because you have a feeling for the player, you have a feeling for their family, everything to do with it, because you understand what it means that they all want to play, they want to show what they can do.
Yeah, a few things to go before we finish. Just on that point, I look at you going back to Everton. You've kept him in the Premier League. Again, I'm lucky enough just to be able to savour some of those great nights you had. Goodison, the farewell Merseyside. My God Almighty!
My goodness,
it was written in the stars for you.
Oh, it was amazing for the game at Goodison, because we actually played really well on the night, and it was as intense a game as I've ever sort of been involved in. The crowd were amazing, they really were. But the goal, I was sort of at the sideline. I think we're into about the 92nd minute when we scored the goal, and I'm at 90 minutes. I'm sort of saying, look, we've played well tonight, we're not going to get it, we're just going to have to live with this. And it meant that Liverpool would have won more games at Goodison.
I think it was 14 or something, wasn't it?
Exactly the same. Yeah. And even though I was saying, it doesn't really matter, it's not that. I mean, the only thing that mattered really was that we didn't get relegated. That was all I was interested in, that I didn't get the team relegated. If I get the team relegated, where was I going to live? I don't know where I was going to live, but it certainly wouldn't have been very close to Merseyside, that was for sure.
Yeah.
So Tarky's goal was magic.
Do you know what I looked at automatically when everybody was jumping up and down? When he put the ball in the net, I looked at the linesman. Yeah. I'm just thinking, don't rule this out. Just give him the draw.
So it was an amazing night. And to be fair, Goodison was great. Even the last game at Goodison, we played Southampton, and it was sort of farewell to Goodison. It was a big thing. I've never really been involved in the last day of a stadium, but when you think back of all the great players that had played in the stadium, the great managers who had managed there, and that was it. It was coming to an end. It was actually, when I look back at it, I thought it was a really big moment, and still maybe not sunk in as much as it should do, because in this job you just move to the next game, or my goodness, the next season's starting, I better start getting ready for it, and that's it. But there was some magnificent days at Goodison.
You said a great thing about it though, which is, and we were talking about the man who can't be loved. This is a man who could be loved. When I was walking around that stadium, the amount of Everton fans who were chanting your name in songs, and I thought to myself, I just felt great, because I thought, great, he's back at a place where people actually get it. You know what I mean? Does that not fill you with a bit of...
It does, and I think it's, by the way, I don't think there's any player, there's any manager who doesn't want support. But at Everton it was special. But I think the Everton supporters realised the job we had to do at the end of last season, so I accept that. But you know, we're back again, new challenge, starting to try and... I want to start talking more about being a European side than I do a relegation side. Where I finish up, maybe between a bit of that, I don't know, but I have to keep being positive. And because I'm not going to be here for 11 years this time, I'm going to be here for a shorter period. I'm going to come in and hopefully put Everton in a better place than they were. And it's not because of the managers who were before me, maybe because of the financial situation and just the way the club was run. I hope that I can be helpful to the new American owners as well. I hope that I can be helpful to the new CEO with my sort of experience in Everton. But the most important thing at the moment is I need to get a winning team for those supporters.
And they'll never take your name out of the fact that you're the first manager at a stadium to die for, isn't it?
It is. It's a brilliant new stadium. It really is. It's incredible the way they've done it. Really steep the banks, great viewing everywhere you are. And I have to say the big things they've done and people won't know, in behind, they've got lots of things they've done for future. There's faith rooms, there's women's referee rooms, there's indoor warm-up areas. There's so many good things which they've done in behind the scenes as well. But everybody will know, you buy a new house, not everything's correct inside. You've got a few snagging bits and might need a new coat of paint somewhere which you wasn't expected. So there's still bits to be done, but overall, the whole thing about it, the noise in the stadium is brilliant, and it's a big thing for us. We're really enjoying it.
I know you want to push for Europe. You've got a team that's certainly, I'm not saying it's a long way away from what you hope to build, but what are you hoping to see in an Everton side? I mean, I love the fact, my type of player that I'd go and watch and pay to see every day of the week is a Jack Grealish. I love anybody who can stand a player square on and beat him with skill.
Yeah. No, he's a top player, and he's someone we're privileged to have at the moment, and he's great to work with. But I want to give the Everton supporters something to shout about if we can. But I said, we had so many players out of contract. We've got so many things to change. We've only just avoided relegation for the last 3 or 4 years. We shouldn't be expecting so much. But I want to expect more myself, and I've said to the players, I don't want to come back here and manage a team who's just going to finish outside the relegation. I'm too old now to do that. You know what I mean? I'd rather be sitting at home if that was the case and coming and watching the football. But I want to manage a team which has got a chance and can challenge I always want us to be challenging the best teams. So whether that be Arsenal or Liverpool or whoever the top teams are, I want us to try and challenge them and give them games and give our supporters some hope that we can get a result.
Is this your last job?
I would probably say yes, but I've not. You never know how football goes. I actually thought West Ham was my last job, and also because I won a trophy. But I tell you what, I got a bug for doing it again. The thought that I could maybe put another medal around my dad's neck would be something special. So I've got to keep believing that that's a chance, and hopefully somewhere down the line maybe it'll come around.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but I've still got one last job for you. I know Celtic are possible. Rangers always think, go and get David Moyes, in your long association with, going back to the Celtic, they would look at you and say you could be a manager there one day. But I still think David Moyes in the future, after maybe Steve Clarke gets us to the World Cup, Scotland would be
semi-final or final at least. Is that what you're talking about?
And the one good thing about you and I sitting in this chair and your brother is at least we followed Scotland everywhere. It would be great to surely not be one for you.
No, we followed Scotland everywhere, as you well know better than MD. And no, even when we were young, we would at Wembley all the time and trips and watched all the Scotland games. Look, first of all, I have to say, I think Steve's doing a brilliant job. Because I think, if we've been honest, I think it's not the strongest Scottish international players, or not the pool of Scottish international players we've had in the past, and I'd mentioned people like Roy and Danny and Charlie Nicholas. If you think of the level of those players and what we've had even before that, from Kenny to Dennis Law, we've had an abundance of players who were amazing players. So we've probably not got that level at the moment. So we have to give Steve everything we've got, all the backing we've got, because he's got to get the best out of probably some players which probably aren't at the top end. So who knows in the future? But at the moment, it's not really on my agenda. I think in the future I'd like to help a lot of managers if I can, if that's what comes. I do a bit of work for UEFA. I do some stuff for the SFA, and I'd like to try and help young managers and give them the best chance to get better if that's possible.
And the last point is the most difficult question to ask you, because people will be hanging on your every word with it. You've played with some fantastic players. Mm-hmm. You've managed some unbelievable players. I need your five-a-side team.
Do you do that in this podcast?
Yes.
Is that what you do? Five-a-side team? My goodness, that off the top of my head. What ones which are the best, or you think I just need in the team?
Oh, it's a great question. Well, listen.
What, do you want me just to get a result?
No. Do you know what I want? I want it as if...
Can I give you a story about a five-a-side team?
Fire it in.
Yeah. If you remember, it used to be the Wembley Fives. When I was a young player at Celtic, I get sent everywhere. Every Sunday I was playing at north of Scotland or on the borders, or was sent everywhere to play, represent Celtic. And it was the Wembley Fives came up. I'm saying I must be going to this. And Jimmy Lumsden, who worked for me for years, Jimmy Lumsden, had to pick the Wembley Fives. And he didn't pick me in that Wembley Fives to go there. Charlie was in it. I think Danny Craney, Willie Gardner. There was a Celtic team, and they won the Wembley Fives that year.
You raging?
And I was raging because I think they were getting about £1,000 bonus at the time. They got for winning it. And all I ever get for Jimmy Lumsden every time I meet him, he shows me the pictures of the Wembley Five team that done it. So
give me flair. Give me flair.
You want some flair?
Yeah.
Let me think who I would pick. I'm trying to think of all.
You having a goalie?
I'm having a goalie. I'd need to have a goalie. And I'm doing this because he might not have been the best, but I'm picking him because Tim Howard would probably be because of what he'd done, and he should probably be president of the United States and running the American Football Association. He's a top guy and does so well. Who else? Well, I'm trying to think of the centre halves I've had over the years, and I've had some brilliant centre halves. But
remember, you only get 4 are in front of Tim Howard.
I know. I'm trying to think though. Probably. And I only had him for a short period. And you talked about Vidic was probably the best centre half I only got up close to for a short period. He was an amazing centre half at that time.
I think with Vidic you could play with 3 attackers then. Yeah,
I mean Big Roy I'd have picked Big Roy because of Big Roy's versatility and could do so many jobs. Midfield players, just because of probably where he is and what he'd done. Maybe Mikel Arteta.
Yeah.
Get in midfield, in the five-a-side. I think that might have suited him as well.
You are surprising me with this. I'd never have picked these.
Yeah. So who else? You're making me really go deep here. I'm trying to think of all that.
You've got one more player.
I've only got one.
It's a five-a-side.
You said it was a 5. I've only named a goalie.
A goalie.
A centre half.
Vidic. Big Roy.
No, I said I would. Big Roy might make the bench for that. Might make the
I'll
bench
phone him and tell him that. By the way.
But it's a five-a-side team.
You've got 2 midfielders and a striker.
I need a midfield player. I'm doing this for only because of what he gave to me over a period was probably Tim Cahill. Yeah, done all that and just an amazing one. But probably after that, it would be hard not to pick Wayne, wouldn't it?
Oh, he could play anywhere.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's a good balance to it, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
On that, throwing me in at the deep end there, that was it.
Yeah, the mere fact
Jimmy Lumsden wouldn't have been the manager, that's for sure.
Exactly.
After not picking me for that Wembley 5 Celtic one.
The mere fact that you've said Aitken's nearly in it, and I'll phone him and I'll say you're on the bench. Shut it, Rooney's in.
Yeah, no.
It was brilliant, David. Listen, it's an absolute joy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
David Moyes, Straight Talk. Thank you very much to you for listening and watching.